This podcast is brought to you by TeamTrade, a digital solution that helps you hire, optimize, and retain employees. Using psychometric assessments to identify more than 100 professional mindset traits, it gives instant reports you can use to build high-performing teams. Get 2 free profiles today, no commitment, no credit card required, at teamtrait.com. TeamTrait.com. Welcome to the Manage Smarter podcast with hosts C. Lee Smith and Audrey Strong. We're glad you're here for discussions on new ways to manage smarter, hire, develop, and retain talent, improve results, and propel team performance to new heights. This is the Manage Smarter podcast.
I'm not saying that everybody has this, Lee, but I mean, is it ever like 2 a.m. and you're laying there and you can't sleep and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing with my job. I'm confused about this and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, like there's always like an issue or something like that. Not always, but occasionally there's an issue that will pop up where you're just so like, oh, I hope I can come up with the answer to this, or it's like I hope I know the right way to deal with this. And you're playing through millions of scenarios in your mind. And if you haven't been through it or whatever, it's easy to let some thoughts creep in like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. You know, when you're a little bit more experienced and you've had the success or whatever, like you have that a little bit less, but it can still happen. So I would say it's there's some people that have the imposter syndrome, where it's a regular thing, it's part of their personality, and that needs to be addressed, which we hope to do today. And there's some I think that's situational, and of course with that, it's like it really depends on the event and the task at hand. But it's like, I experienced the first one when I was a young person starting my career, and I still experience the second one, a situational one from time to time, even today.
Yeah, we haven't done the topic of imposter syndrome on the show, and we are going to do it today. Not only how to fix it in yourself, but what if you have team reporting to you that it's inhibiting them from performing or executing work product? I mean, we're going to get into all this. Our guest today is amazing. Next level, yeah. So welcome to Manage Smarter, everyone. My name is Audrey Strong. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications here at SalesFuel.
And I'm C. Lee Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of SalesFuel.
And we're thrilled today to welcome Summer Craig, the President and CEO of the Craig Group. With more than 20 years of experience in digital marketing, Summer is a seasoned expert in driving revenue growth for multimillion-dollar companies, specializes in leveraging tech, integrating sales and marketing, and aligning organizations for sustainable business growth. And she also works with private equity-backed businesses to lead large in-house teams. Not only that, she's a mountain climber. We'll get to that later in the show. She's smiling. But welcome to the show, Summer. And so, imposter syndrome.
Glad to be here.
What led you to have a passion to talk about this topic? Have you experienced it yourself? Is there a moment that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And hello to all your listeners. Love the SalesFuel podcast. Appreciate what you guys are bringing to the marketplace. Well, I mean, I'm a mother of 3, and I'm a marketer by trade. You talked about that, specifically digital marketing. And I started a consulting company calling on private equity. I have never been a consultant. I have never started a company, nor have I ever worked in private equity. And yet that's the company I founded and now run. So yes, I think it's a topic that is, it took me a few years to realize that I was struggling with what is actually imposter syndrome. I think you don't know sometimes when you're in it. But it is something that I'm happy to talk about because I live it every day, and I've really come through that, and my team has come through with what that means. And I love talking about how to take your superpowers, like what you're just generally good at, and apply it anywhere. And I think that's the anecdote.
That was a time where I definitely feel like I had imposter syndrome, was when I was a father for the first time, because I thought, oh my God, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. That's and you know what? You really didn't know. I mean, no
my kids would be evidence of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but you know what though? It's one of those things where you don't know, but you trust, you use your resources, and you walk in a little bit of faith around, I'm gonna figure this out. And I think that is the anecdote, which is like, but wait, what am I good at? I'm sure you
find a way. You find a way. That's
so. How many professionals? Like, what percentage do you think? I mean, it's anecdotal. Or do you have hard data on people who admit that they actually have had this, from C-suiters down to, I don't know, director level positions, leadership?
I have absolutely no hard data on it. I'd love to
Okay.
know. In fact, I'd love to even know if there's research on it. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know that there is. Will say that I do. I'm in some groups with other female CEOs and female leaders, and I will say that it is rampant, especially among women that are mothers that are also CEOs, because again, we don't always see a lot of that example out in the world, and especially growing up. And sometimes it's difficult to manage your mind when you're thinking, man, can I do this? And you look around, look left, look right, and you don't see a lot of other people doing the same thing. So I do think that for women in particular in the C-suite, it's likely something that I think, if everyone's being honest, they've had to walk through the struggles.
So, Audrey, to your questions, like there was a article published in Harvard Business Review, and there was a study done by University of Cincinnati, just down the road from me because I'm in Columbus, and they did a study on this, and they found that 1/3 of young people have imposter syndrome, and that 80% of all people have imposter syndrome situationally at one point or time in their lives, probably when they became parents.
Yeah.
1/3. Wow. But there is I do like the distinction you made, Lee, where sometimes it's just situational. Like, I'm in the C-suite. I got here because I know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
But this particular issue is an issue, versus just having it all the time over everything. And in which case, some people might also call that just having unabated anxiety. But I mean, what do you think the remedy is for both those scenarios? I mean, if you have imposter syndrome all the time, I would find that very, very disruptive.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, first of all, if you have imposter syndrome all the time, you probably should seek out some mental health support, because I believe in that. I think this is something that is a true, you truly need to find help and resources, and people should do that. So I think that's something that I've personally done and I believe in, and I also would encourage my team and family to do the same. But as far as something that I think we all should do all the time, and I believe is a true anecdote here, which is really figuring out what you are good at, not necessarily tasks that you're good at, but what is it in the world that you contribute? Are you a connector? Are you always positive and you're able to cheer people up, or are you great at giving people feedback and helping other people be better? Whatever that is, I think that's the antidote to imposter syndrome, because you can always find whatever your strength is. It applies. It's a solution to whatever you are, wherever you're at. You're like, okay, what are my strengths and how can I use my gifts and my smarts, my brain, to come up with a solution? And I think that's what you have to do. You have to find what you are good at, and then use it.
One of the things that I was taught on this particular subject was to put your thoughts on trial. So it's just sort of like, what evidence is there of that? When I think, oh, if I had to do that, I would totally suck at that. I would totally fail if I took on this initiative or something like that. And to stop and ask yourself, what evidence do I have of that? Is this a fact or is this a feeling? And is it just something that's rooted in insecurity and anxiety? Or is there actual factual evidence then that would lead me to that particular conclusion? And by going through that little exercise or whatever, that about 90% of the time, whatever, there's no factual evidence to support that feeling whatsoever.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Which is separating facts and feelings, and taking that learning and putting it in a work situation. And especially when it comes to what we do, what I do, which is selling. We sell, right? And sometimes there's really some, can I do that? Can I ask for that meeting? Can I go in that room? Can I cold call that person? Can I, right? And a little bit of it is just feelings. There's no factual evidence around what you can and can't do. But I think that's a great tool to tell people to use, like a little bit of a mental tool to help get through it.
So what about in your team, your employees? What are some of if you've got, what did you say, 1/3 of Gen Z?
One-third of young people. So, in the study, I didn't read the study far enough, basically, to determine whether young people included millennials or not.
Oh, okay. Well, the reason I'm asking about them and what to look for in the younger employees that might be reporting to you, what are the signs to look for? And the reason I asked this, Summer, is because I feel like imposter syndrome is a very solitary mental exercise. Most people aren't like going to the supervisor and saying, I don't feel like I can do this, or maybe some
Right.
are, but what do you, how do you, how do you recognize it, and how do you tactfully bring it up?
How do you get them to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely hire people at Craig Group that have some tenure to them, and so we have a limited amount of super young employees, but one in particular, we do have an intern that is absolutely delightful, and it's something that happens frequently. We give a task and we come back with, I've never done this before, which it's not so much imposter syndrome from the sense of this isn't who I think I am. It's more of it. I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to start. And the way to turn that, and the way that we coach her on that is you do know it. You're a great writer. You're at a great school. You're a great thinker. You're on social media, the internet. You can go research and learn, which is you do have the tools, even if you've never done something before. You do have the tools. They just may look a little bit different. What it isn't is you don't have is a template that you can pull out that you've done before. Okay, fine. But can you think through the problem? Can you problem solve? And of course she can problem solve because we hired her. So she's really bright. So it's anybody that's already made it to a certain place in their life. They if they're a thinker and a problem solver, they can do it. They absolutely can. And I think that maybe just having somebody else tell you that can also go a long ways. And I think that's one of the benefits too of youth, is hopefully getting somebody that can tell you that. I think when you're in a different stage of life, and also when you're a leader in a company, it's much harder, right? Because you're not going and having those conversations with anybody. So I think that can be very solitary. But when you're younger or a little earlier in your career, I hope there's room for that. I hope there's room for coaching.
So that's a time when imposter syndrome then also seems to rear its ugly head. Is like now when you've been promoted into a leadership position or even a management position or something like that,
Yeah.
and you don't want to let your direct reports know that you have any doubt whatsoever about your capability of doing the job. You certainly don't want those you report to to know that either. So it's like, so what are the unique challenges that come with imposter syndrome in management and leadership versus just in general?
Yeah, I think that's something that I've definitely had to walk through. I mean, I would argue a little bit on this though, that I think it's perfectly okay to say to people, I don't know, I've never done this before. I think that actually that makes you a great leader.
I would agree.
You think that gives you more credibility, not less
Agreed.
credibility?
Yeah. So I think saying like, I don't know
That
what I'm doing.
vulnerability. Yeah.
Sure. And like, hey, let's figure it out. Let's figure it out together. Let's research, let's learn. And probably the most powerful tool I think you have as a leader who maybe has never done something before is let's go find somebody that has, and showing that no matter where you are, no matter what your role is, no matter how big up the chain you are, you always can go learn from somebody else. That you're not it. You don't need to know the things. So something that we hire for at Craig Group is the ability to figure it out. That's what we've figured. That's what we've decided in our company. You don't really have to have as many hard skills as much as the ability to figure it out. And that's what I'm kind of speaking to a little bit more, which is a humility around, you don't have to have done it. You don't have to know, but you have to be smart enough to figure it out and maybe go find help or admit that you need help and go solve the problem.
Being able to form a peer network, I think, is important there too. So you're in a management position for the first time or whatever. Okay, who do you know that is also managers that you can go and talk to, go out and have a beer with or something like that, and or you've been put in charge of this writing project. Who else do you know that are writers, and also, how can you build that network and being able to have that group of resources available to you, that human group of resources or whatever, I think is a big help in this area.
Huge help. And also just being a leader, especially in the C-suite, incredibly challenging and isolating, even if you're in any kind of senior role. So always finding a peer network, which sometimes can be easier said than done. But I think any place where you can truly be vulnerable with others and connect and say, I don't know what I'm doing, and somebody else says, I don't know what I'm doing. And then also how can we help each other? I think that that's actually one of the secrets, I think, to success in life, really, is having a peer network that you can say that to. But I think applying it to work and finding whoever that might be that can be your safe space is critical. It's critical. And I will say though too, just because, again, being a woman CEO, especially a woman CEO it's a mother of young children, very difficult to find a peer network. And so I'm lucky I've searched that out, but it is curated and hard fought. It doesn't just occur. For other people in this role, it might be a little bit easier to find peer networks, but it is there can be certain roles that are incredibly isolating that you just have to work a little harder to find the people that are your network.
I would think one of the warning signs too would be if you've assigned an employee a task and it's just not getting done. It's just getting delayed and delayed and delayed, To me, that would be you don't think you know what you're doing, and now we're on deadline and it's not getting done. What's going on?
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's a red flag for me too, more so even because again, we want to hire for figure it out. So if somebody's stuck and because they can't figure it out and their solution is inaction and lack of communication, that's a whole other red flag for us, which is I don't know if they may not be a great fit for our firm. But you're right. Like you want to find people that if they're stuck on something, they come and they say, I don't know how to do this. Can you get me going? And then you can ask some probing questions like, okay, well, what do you know about this?
get
What websites
curious.
could you go to? Yeah, what people could you call? What else can you and get them to solve? And then you hope that they then go and do the work they need to do. And if they're not able to do it, then you have a whole other problem, which is maybe you need to think about staffing differently.
Yeah. So you're a mountain climber. Lee and I were fascinated in reading
Mhm.
your bio. So did you have imposter syndrome standing at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro and thinking, oh, I'm not going to make it to the top of this thing? And what lessons
No.
did climbing that Mount Rainier teach you about resiliency and escaping imposter syndrome?
I will tell you, the Kilimanjaro was that one was, I don't want to use the word easy because it's not easy, but
Wow.
that one I've been a lifelong athlete, and some mountains are a little easier than others. When I was on summit night of Mount Rainier, and we've been on the mountain for 4 days, and we're in full snow gear and we're have ice axes, and we're tethered into each other, and it's pitch black, and you're about to go into the hardest 5-hour climb. That was tough, which is, what am I doing here? I'm this
Anybody got a helicopter? Beat me up, Scotty.
Actually, I don't even think the helicopters can fly that high. So it's
wow,
like
right.
So that was that's tough. But I mean the reason why I do that, my husband and I do that, and we choose to really push ourselves physically, and then also geographically, is because I think that doing hard things that are out of your everyday, that are hard, like they're going to be hard mentally, they're hard physically. I think that is just what keeps you alive. And really pushes you to say, I've never done this. This is really hard. So I think that's really what life is about. And I think as we, especially as we get older, so easy to not really do anything hard, to do something that's really puts you out there. And we ask our kids to do it all the time. Go try out for the, the thing, or the
that's
kids do it all the
true.
time.
Yeah.
Adults, you think like, when was the last time you really threw yourself out there where you could really fail at something? And I like it. I think it gives you a perspective on who you are on life, and it also kind of pulls you out of your day to day, right? We all think we're so, we worked for a long time, we're professionals, we have an expertise, but you put yourself on Mount Rainier in a technical mountain, and it puts it, you are very humbled by the people that are experts, and we luckily have had some expert guides that have helped us along the way. But we've been in some tough, we've had some tough mountains that we've climbed, but it's a passion of ours. Maybe someday we'll move to Colorado, not Texas, so we can actually train on real mountains instead of skyscraper stairwells.
Yeah, I've spent 15 years in Denver, and I have friends that they just are plucking off the 14ers. I've done this one. Next, there's still like a whole tour of 14ers you could do.
Yeah, we've got a good little list going ourselves.
I bet you do.
Yeah, we do. We've got some. I'm excited for the next. Hopefully I'll be able to do this for another 30 years, and we'll tick off some more.
If you want to be more interested in front of a group of people or at parties, on stage or anything like that, you have to have good stories to tell. And I find that the best stories that I have are from doing hard things, succeeding at really hard things, and failing at really hard things or whatever, and learning lessons from those. And so if you feel like you don't have enough stories to tell, at parties or anything like that, start by doing some hard things, trying to at least.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, if not for your own, just kind of desire to feel small in the world, it's good for entertainment for others.
Exactly.
This has been the fastest 20 minutes ever. Okay, so it's www.craiggroup.io, everybody. Your Craig Summer, the name is flip-flop for your LinkedIn, and her Facebook is Craig Group FB. And you taking on new clients and projects?
We're absolutely taking on new clients and projects.
Okay.
Yeah, we work with private equity-backed portfolio companies in the middle market. So that's our core client base.
Fantastic. Well, I feel better already about this imposter syndrome thing. Thank you, Summer. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information at SalesFuel.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.